Hi, hello, my name is Lottie, aka Sneezy Ferret, and I want to talk to you today about freedom of speech in the UK and how it is slowly being eroded away. The other thing I want to talk about is obviously, I'm sure you've heard about this, but Keir Starmer is considering handing new powers to the police to crack down on protests that keep going on. Now, at the moment, that does seem to be directed at the pro-Palestinian marchers, but trust me when I say it will not be used for that in the future. You do not give government more power. Especially, you don't give up the very limited freedom of expression that we have to be able to march in the first place. In the future, they will use it to crack down on dissented voices against the government. I almost can guarantee that to you. So, why do I want to talk about freedom of speech today? Well, I've been trying to make a few videos about it anyway, but it was comments that I was reminded of yesterday which made me want to do it today, and that is the comments made by Lucy Powell prior to her being elected as the deputy leader for Labour. And that was when she was questioned on the grooming gangs thing and responded with, "Oh, you're using that dog whistle, are you?" I'm sorry, but it should never be claimed to be a dog whistle for you to mention something which is very, very important. And the grooming gangs and the discussion surrounding that is very important. The inquiry itself seems to be going absolutely nowhere, with survivors all dropping out of it, probably because they don't feel listened to. After all, they do seem to be watering it down because everybody seems too terrified to criticise a particular group. And it's one of the reasons why I want to do this. So I'm going to be reading a couple of articles, some new, some old, but all of them to try and get the same point across, which is, in this country, we are allowed to criticise and dissect everything, be that religious or otherwise. Mostly religion. If we do not have a platform to be able to dissect bad ideas, or even good ideas, then we will never have any progress in our country and it will remain divisive. When you cannot talk about something, that issue becomes a lot worse. It's always been that way, always will be that way. So what are we discussing? Well, we are talking about the anti-blasphemy laws that are being put in through the back door. I say through the back door because we're not talking about an actual article which is going through the House of Commons or anything else. We're talking about what happens in our justice system. Because as much as Keir wants to turn around and say, well, we don't have a two-tier system, we do, and we see that in practice. It's no good telling us something if you're not acting upon that. By that, I mean, it's all well and good you saying that we do not have blasphemy laws, but then allow somebody to stab someone and don't send them to prison, but to arrest the person who was stabbed because they burnt a Quran. In this country, again, we allow that kind of thing. Now, you cannot be happy about it. I wouldn't be happy if someone burned a Bible, but I wouldn't attack them for that. Not physically, because we allow that. You cannot be happy with what somebody has done, but that does not give you the right to act violently towards them. And that, unfortunately, is what we are seeing. We're seeing very, very dual standards, and that's not a good thing. See, our freedom of expression laws that exist allow us to do certain things. Now, other people may find them offensive, but they are legal. But what we are seeing is that people are being prosecuted for those things by looking at the very vague laws that exist and kind of turning them inside out to find ways of being able to arrest people for it. It's a bit like how the police have been visiting people because of comments they've made online, even if those comments are not violent in any way, shape or form. I'll make it clear I am pretty much a free speech absolutist with caveats. No violent speech, no violent speech at all. You do not incite people to violence, you do not make threats against someone. But I think most people agree on that anyway, and we do have laws in regards to that. So let's get into why this has become an issue. So I'm going to start this by proving that yes, we do live under a two-tier justice system, as much as politicians would like us to think otherwise. Now, it's true we do have freedom of speech laws, but how they are interpreted by the court seems to be very different, and how they are applied, dependent on where you are on the spectrum of politics or your religion, do seem to be applied differently. Now, if we compare two cases, Lucy Connolly, a lot of people are aware of that case, and the case of Charlotte Hayes. Her being left-wing and Lucy Connolly being right-wing. Now, both of them made comments online which could be considered by some to be inherently violent. If you're unaware of the Charlotte Hayes case, she was talking after the Charlie Kirk shooting, where she made a TikTok video saying that she was sick of the idea that you can't meet violence with violence, and adding, why is anyone condemning that? kill them all. That was in regards to people who are right-wing. So, both of them said some things which I'm sure they probably regret. But one of them had a 31 prison sentence imposed on them, and the other one just had a couple of words given to them of advice, their quote, not mine, from the police. So a bit different. So the second example is one that I alluded to earlier on in this video. That's in regards to Hamid Kuskin, when he burned a Quran and was attacked and slashed with a knife by Musa Kadri. Now, Musa Kadri was not sent to prison. In fact, he was given a suspended sentence for attacking somebody with a knife in the UK. And the man, Hamid Kuskin, was prosecuted. Now, thankfully, he's appealed that and the conviction has been overturned. But that's not Britain, is it? We allow people to criticise. We might not like it. We might find something that someone does highly offensive, but it's not illegal, or at least it wasn't. The final thing I want to talk about is what happened, or what's happening, I should say, with the Aston Villa football match. This hurt me a great deal, not because I'm Jewish, but because I don't understand the world I'm now living in. I don't understand the Britain I'm now living in. So for those of you unaware, the Jewish fans of the football match have been banned from the match. Now, apparently, government's looking into it and trying to overturn that, etc., whatever. The fact that it's happened at all in this country is insane and disgusting. We left religious persecution in the past. We don't do that anymore. We do not persecute somebody on anything that believes anything. We don't do that. This is Britain. What made it worse was then Jeremy Corbyn and the local MP that I don't care what the name is, I can't remember, and I honestly don't give a damn. They have put up a petition to now have the football match cancelled completely or be held in a neutral country. We are that neutral country. We have never persecuted people or banned them from events like that. That's the kind of stuff that we did in the Middle Ages, not now. That's not the Britain that I know, I love, and it's not the one I want to see going forward either. We allow people to criticise religious beliefs. That's fine. We do not allow people to act violently towards people who have different beliefs. Now, oddly enough, this country has been fine for years with the immigration and everything else, okay? It didn't matter whether people were of a different skin colour, where they came from, what they believed in. My family itself is very, very mixed. I've got people in my family who are Muslim, who are Jewish, who are Christian. Doesn't matter. I've got people in my family who are not white. I've got one person in my family who came from Jamaica and another one from China. He's not a spy, don't worry. He hates China. The point I'm trying to make is that so is our nation. As my family is, so is our nation. It is blended. It's been like that for a very long time, and it's worked. We've had respect for each other's differences, and sometimes we discuss them over coffee, but not over violence. That's not Britain. And all I can see is that if they they continue doing this two-tier thing, it's just going to make things even more divisive, even more poisonous. And that's not the country I want to live in. I barely recognise it in regards to that anymore. Half of the problem there is politics becoming part of our everyday lives, and it's got its claws into everything now. It must do things about everything. What our government needs to do, and what we need to try and force through, are new freedom of speech laws. We need new ones which are not vague and are just absolute. And we should be condemning and probably criminalising any judges or any of the justice system that overlooks crimes because of any aspect of you. I hope that makes sense. Probably not. Let me make that more clear. We should be prosecuting or firing any member of our justice system that does not enforce the laws equally. Point blank. That simple. And if we see people doing that and they're not criminalised, we need to start shouting about it until it's sorted out, because we cannot let this continue in our country. As it stands, I meant what I said earlier about our free speech being eroded, and if Starmer does hand more powers to the police and does not even allow demonstrations. Because, as I said earlier, this will not just be used on the people you don't like very much. This will be used on everybody eventually. We need more freedom of expression, more freedoms, not less. I'm going to leave the video here because when I get ranty, I have a tendency of saying things that I later kind of regret, and I would prefer not to. I'd just like us to see us go back to how we were before, when everybody integrated and we all got along. It didn't matter what our religions were, etc. And I sure as hell do not want to become a non-neutral country. We're apparently safe. That's why people keep coming here. Can we have a new rule that if you choose to come to the UK, you leave your hatred and bias at the door? This country cannot become a secondary arena for hatred, bias, violence because of religious reasons. We used to all get along. Let's go back to that. When we had differences, we just discussed them. And if we start to ban speech, if we stop talking about something because it's uncomfortable or may offend somebody, then, well, I don't know what to tell you. We're screwed, basically. What we all need to start doing is use those existing freedom of speech laws and actually utilize them. Put them into practice, speak openly, not just in our living rooms with our friends quietly, hoping that we don't offend people, but actually speak out loud. Double down. So, I'm going to leave the video here. I hope I've made my feelings on that clear. I'm not against any group. In fact, I'm kind of for everyone getting along, okay? But I am very anti-hating someone because of what they believe in. Very anti that. That simple. And I am even more against people being treated differently by our law. We have laws in place that we should keep to. I think what makes me really, really kind of angry is that it's this kind of pussyfooting around that allowed those grooming gangs and all of that to go on for so long. I said I've got a dog in the fight there. I know someone who was affected by that. Not the grooming gangs that are regularly talked about, but other ones that cropped up across the UK, because it didn't just happen in Rotherham. It happened in other places too. And it was ignored because everyone was just terrified of offending anyone. And that is what happens in a country when you do not prosecute people, when you do not arrest them for committing crimes because you're terrified of maybe offending or upsetting someone or a group. If we're seeing that might be the case because we're just arresting people from a particular group for certain crimes, then maybe we should be looking into why that's happening. Because, again, this wasn't happening years ago, and we had people coming in from all over the world then, so what has changed? So, yeah, again, leaving this video here because, again, when I get ranty, it's not a good idea. I love you all very much. Please take care. Remember, freedom of speech is our responsibility. To be able to continue having it, we need to fight for it. So, yes. I love you all. Take care. Bye-bye.